where best friends and next-door neighbors, Willow and Lillian, spill the tea on murder, mysteries, and other things that go bump in the night. So get your favorite teacup ready, and let's get into it. Welcome to Cruelty Podcast. This is Lillian, and with me is Willow.
Hello.
Hello. Specifically, hello, new listeners.
Hi.
I don't know where you're from or what you're doing, but I'm glad you're here.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks for being here. Yep. If the audio goes weird at any point in this episode, it is because we have a cord that seems to be going out on our audio interface. I'll be talking about that later, but it should be fine. It's fine for now.
We're kind of like sweaty mom spaghetti right now.
A little bit. It feels
about
like
our tech issues.
Yeah, I feel like I'm just duct taping things together.
Yeah.
Oh boy. But yeah, it's still Medical Murders Month, and I'm not going to preamble any further.
So this is the third episode in my accidental mini series on Dr. Death. So this is the third Dr. Death. And so if you're just now listening, our first Dr. Death was Dr. Harold Shipman. He worked and operated over the course of 3 decades during the 70s, 80s, and 90s. He injected upwards of 280 elderly patients with lethal doses of morphine. Most of them died peacefully in their home, but he was still prolific nonetheless, though he was nonviolent. Just kind of like getting what's different about each one. The second Dr. Death, Michael Swango, was a decade younger and was active during the 80s and 90s. He was more of like the mad chemist type. He liked to mix his own concoctions and would poison patients and colleagues and just about anybody that was around him. He almost poisoned an entire city. He was like more like the mad scientist, mad chemist type. But the Dr. Death that we're discussing tonight is more of a recent case, and he isn't just calmly injecting them and scurrying away like the other two. This doctor is a neurosurgeon. Ooh. Fueled by cocaine.
Oh my God.
This guy is just chaotic evil all the way. High charisma, really, really low stats, and a lot of other things.
Did we just go D&D with that?
We did. I know. It was accidental. I'm sorry. But
fucking nerd.
Yeah. Yeah. Very low dexterity. We'll go with that. This Dr. Death, he killed far less people than the other two. Like I said, the first one was in the 200s. The second one was like in the 60s. He only officially killed 2 to 4 people. And we'll get into it. And I don't want to use the word only. Like, I use it with quotations because obviously those are, fucking lives that we're talking about. But I think that he acquired the name Dr. Death appropriately because of the ones that he didn't kill, the ones that actually lived through the procedures. And the suffering.
Oh, my anxiety.
The suffering that these people went through is just outrageous. There is a TV series called Dr. Death where his character, the lead, is Pacey from Dawson's Creek, Joshua Jackson. Also, Christian Slater is in it. And so, I can't watch it because I don't have Peacock, but if you can, those are at least 2 reasons to watch it. It is based off of a podcast series that did a deep dive that's basically an audio documentary. It's really, really good. It's called Dr. Death. And that podcast actually led to the show. So definitely worth a listen, definitely worth a watch because, this particular Dr. Death was accused of maiming 33 of the 38 patients he had in less than 2 years. Essentially a year and a half.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So 2 died recently, died within a few hours of their surgeries, but 2 more ended up dying actually within the recent years due to complications later on. So
makes sense, yeah.
Yeah. And the rest were all left either disabled, in tremendous lifelong chronic pain, or unable to walk at all. He left surgical instruments inside of his patients and botched surgeries left and right. And somehow, through lies and greed and a failed system, Christopher Duntsch at the time was acknowledged as one of the best surgeons in the state of Texas. So trigger warnings for this case would be drug use, medical and surgical fears and phobias, because, descriptions of injuries and operations, brief mention of death, and suicide ideations. So this case is wild, so y'all buckle up. Christopher Duntsch seemed to be an all-American boy growing up. His father was a physical therapist and a Christian missionary, and his mother was a school teacher. He was born in Montana and grew up in Memphis, Tennessee. He wanted to be a football star whenever he grew up, but no matter how hard he trained and tried to look the part, at the end of the day, his teammates would later say that he really just wasn't talented enough to make it. He tried his hand at college football, but he just wasn't good enough to really play at the college level. He started in Jacksonville, Mississippi, later transferred to Colorado State as a walk-in linebacker. One of his teammates would later recall that he struggled with even the most basic of drills in practice. He'd beg the coaches to have him run them over and over and over again until he finally got it right. He just kept messing up each time, and he'd just be like, okay, coach, I'll do better, just run me again, and then he'd be like, oh, I think I know where I messed up, here, let me try it again.
Sounds like me with video games. Yes.
But it was drill after drill after drill, and he just wasn't getting it. And the coaches would want to go home, and everybody'd be like, dude, we have practice tomorrow, practice then. And as soon as he'd come back to practice, he'd be like, coach, I think I figured out what I did wrong. Can you run that drill again? And he would just do it like obsessively. And it took a very long time to see any sort of improvement. And even then, he just really wasn't getting just the most basic of drills. But this story would later impact his teammates so much that he would later use this story as an inspiration when telling his kids about it and encouraging them never to give up, just like his friend Chris. Yeah.
Yikes on bikes.
Yeah. If there was one thing that Chris had, it was determination. He was motivated to succeed and borderline on obsession. But he missed home. Being in Colorado, it really wasn't his vibe, and I'm assuming he probably was running out of money as well. He wanted to transfer back to Tennessee and go back home. But when he did, he lost all of what little scholarships he had, and he was no longer eligible for football, so he was just absolutely crushed. He actually called one of his teammates sobbing because he couldn't be in football anymore. Yeah. But he sucked it up. He rolled up his sleeves, and he went to the University of Memphis, where he switched his focus to medicine. Upon moving back to Tennessee, he reconnected with his childhood friend, Jerry Summers. And Jerry ended up helping him out a lot over the years. That's a complete understatement. Jerry would basically work for Chris from here on out, because Chris needed so much help just to get through just the normal mundane processes of life. He would not have made it through med school and into his surgeon career without Jerry Summers, his best friend by his side. Chris barely could drive a car. He was horrible with directions, and he would just get lost going to the grocery store. He couldn't balance a checkbook. He basically needed Jerry so much all the time that Jerry wasn't actually able to go get a job.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Jerry had to be by his side all through med school. I find this very strange.
I'm just blinking into the void.
I really find this very strange, and I really want to come back to this. But
I don't want a doctor that can't life. And at least be able to life, dude.
I'm saying.
And it's not it's like you're 18, freshly out into the world. When you're in med school, you've been in school for 4 years already.
Yeah.
So what are you doing, man?
Yeah. Oh, it's so fucked up, dude.
This dude needs
it's
some
so
help.
fucked up, dude. This is tip of the iceberg. So, yeah, where Chris was just blindly motivated in life. He had tunnel vision on his goals, but he didn't have any of the talent to back it up. Jerry was equally blindly loyal to Chris.
Oh, Jerry.
Because that was his friend since they were kids. They grew up together. And so, of course, he was going to help him out. What else was he going to do? And somehow, probably with major effort on Jerry's part, Chris shined his way through med school. He completed his undergrad studies in 1995 and then went on to complete a neurosurgery residency program at the University of Tennessee Health Center, earning his MD in 2001 and his PhD in 2002. Dr. Dunstch also participated in a year-long spine fellowship at the Murphy Clinic. Now, usually neurosurgeons would have to complete at least over 1,000 surgeries during their residency. Most perform well over 2,000 surgeries, just to be sure. But for some reason, Christopher Dunstch only completed less than 100 surgeries and was somehow able to still graduate. Now, apparently, he had been suspected of being on cocaine while operating during his 4th year at residency. So they sent him to a program it's actually called for impaired physicians. And that right there really sends a shiver down my spine.
I don't mind, if they're impaired in a certain way, it's hard for them to see, or if they have a tremor in their hand and they need support.
It's a drug rehab program for impaired
That's such a fancy
doctors.
Name.
Yeah, for specifically doctors who are...
And y'all, I want to stress this, okay, how common it is for doctors to have addiction issues.
Yes, it's right there at their hands.
Well, not only that, but it's an extremely high stress profession.
Yes.
My mom used to be a drug rep for Astra Merck, and it's now Merck Zeneca or something like that. One of the biggest drug companies in the world.
Right.
And she would go to doctors' offices and she would sell them drugs. They said, well, we'll prescribe your medication over this one, blah, blah, blah.
But see, here's the thing. I've done drugs and I don't do them anymore. And I would never, ever want anyone on those drugs.
Absolutely not. Touch me.
Into me.
No, please not. But my mom, she had just affairs with a lot of these doctors, and that's where she got her cocaine habit.
Yeah.
I just find it interesting. And especially the links they'll go to avoid detection.
Not this guy. This guy had piles of cocaine in his drawer at his desk.
What in the fuck?
This guy's crazy.
All right, well, we'll just get to it because it mind boggles me.
Yeah, no, I don't know how he got where he got. I don't know how he did this.
Hubris, just all hubris.
It's amazing what an incompetent white male can do in Texas. Okay.
Oh, Lord.
So... yeah, he, for some reason, was allowed back into his residency as if nothing happened. Many of Chris's friends said that they'd see him out partying all night long. They would be doing drugs with him, doing LSD, cocaine, drinking heavily all night, partying with him until the sun came up. And then he'd put on his scrubs and go to work.
Oh, God.
Not slept at all.
And he's not giving colonoscopies. He's operating on the brain.
Yeah. And the spinal column.
Yeah. Things I don't want somebody that fucking probably still tripping balls doing to my body. All right.
So one of his roommates in college told a story about Chris always losing his keys. He never knew where his keys were. And every time they found them, they were still in the front door. That's how bad it was. It got so bad that every time he lost his keys, everybody was like, check the front door. And lo and behold, that's where they'd be. And I get it for a normal person. Okay. Neurosurgeon. I have different
standards. Yeah. I couldn't be a neurosurgeon.
No.
You wouldn't want me monkeying with your brain. I'd fuck it up.
But I promise you, I could do a much better surgery than this man did. Even one of his friends, it felt like a weird, premonition. I'm sure it wasn't, but it was just a weird thing that he said. He said, because he was telling him, like, dude, I would never let you operate on me. And he was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna operate on brains, and like bragging about it. He was like, dude, you would open up my brain and accidentally leave something in there and sew me up.
Oh God. Biggest fear.
And he did. Not on brains, but inside people's bodies. Yeah, hell yeah, he did.
God.
Yeah. His best friend's, Jerry's mother would later say that he was way more into science than he was medicine. She said, which I'm sure many of us would agree, that he should have never been allowed to be a doctor and that he should have probably just stuck with sciences. But even then, I don't know. He seemed to be evil inside. At a certain point, it feels like he went evil. So if he would have just stayed with his science research, which he would later get into stem cell research, I don't know like what he would be doing at that point. I don't know. But it's hard to say for sure, of course. When he first got his MD and PhD, he started focusing more on his PhD side of his degree with the stem cell research. He got really into it and started mixing up his stem cell research studies with his studies in neurosurgery. And he teamed up with other scientists to work on a new process of growing spinal discs from stem cells in hopes of helping people with degenerative disc disease and other, spinal issues and stuff like that. He filed patents for this new disc stem cell technology. He gathered funds from investors. He started a new company, all while at his residency. So again, most doctors are doing like 1,000 or 2,000 surgeries during their residency. He's doing stem cell research during his residency. He's not doing surgeries.
He shouldn't get to do different things.
Exactly. He actually ended up working with many other research programs and businesses developing bioscience consulting. And in 2008, he launched a biotech company called Dunstch alongside a husband and wife team of Russian scientists, husband Valery Kukikov and Tatiana Ignatova, which... Again, like, how did he start a biotech company while he's in college still? One of his med school, his head supervisor in med school, was also one of his main investors for the company. This man was also the same man who wrote all of his recommendations later on. The same man that would, tout his praises and say that he was the best surgeon he ever taught. All while he only performed less than 100 surgeries.
Oh my God.
I'm just saying, I'm not going to speculate. It is suspicious though.
It is suspicious as fuck.
It's fucking suspicious, and it's very bright red flag.
But I wonder if it's a part of that good old boys club type of shit.
I really do think it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to be like, reading a book by its cover type, but... Yeah.
Many feel science, all the STEM fields are called a boys club.
Well,
and it's so hard for women to break into them for that kind of attitude. And then we push forward these mediocre... at best.
Well, he's on cocaine all the time. He's also dealing with investors and money laundering and all of this, or money lending, and all of this stuff. Now, he was actually kicked out of the company that he helped start, which this company doesn't even like to speak his name anymore.
Wow.
They moved to Utah.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. This company, he got kicked out of it because he didn't pay up his friend from high school that he had gotten into the company. He had promised a payment of stocks, and that man never received his payment of stocks. And so they kicked him out for it.
Good.
Now, most people, like this whole thing got swept under the rug. Most people just said that like, oh, he just left under bad terms or whatever, or, he just resigned. This biotech company actually is what really set the stage for him. So him getting fired or let go from this tech company should have tarnished his name, right?
Yeah.
But it didn't. It only built his name further and added to his credentials. He appeared in research papers, patents. He helped other biotech companies start up. And these were really, really big in the early 2000s. So he kind of hit the market right whenever it really boomed. On paper, he seemed like the guy to go to for neuroscience. He was in magazines. They had prospects of putting him up on a billboard. He had infomercials. Like, this was kind of the guy, if you had anything wrong with your spine, he was the guy to go to. And I'm sure this definitely inflated the fuck out of his ego. Also, during this time, he met his soon-to-be girlfriend, Wendy Young. The two met at a bar in Memphis called The Beauty Shop. At the time, Chris was 40 and Wendy was 27. She was actually working as a dancer at a strip club. And when they met, he kind of, charmed her with a bunch of like over the top zealous lies and shit. But she ended up moving in with him after 3 months of dating. And later the two had 2 sons. And from the outside looking in, it seemed like the most perfect life. It was kind of a rag to riches story for her. She, they never married, but he talked about marriage. And, she had the prospects of marrying a neurosurgeon. She had children with him and got to live in a nice house. And Chris got to have a very picture perfect, beautiful family. But if you zoom in and you look at the details, you'll notice that it's absolutely and catastrophically flawed. In every way.
Sounds like it's already fallen apart before it started,
Yeah, Chris is really, really high on cocaine and his own self-esteem. He can barely see straight. Probably making up for the loss in football. I really do think that he's trying to overcompensate. Yeah. A lot of this mirrors his football days where he just kind of tries over and over again and never really succeeds. I think at least that's what we all hope when we look at this story.
I don't even know, dude.
I don't even know. But it's as if he's reliving his college days, because up until this man gets arrested, he is just partying. He's cheating on his girlfriend. He's getting drunk at the bar. He's doing psychedelics. He's coked out. He's drinking at work. It's just a lot. It's a lot. And he's not growing up.
No.
He ended up going into major debt, almost $500,000 in debt.
Oh, I just sink myself in the bottom of the lake.
Not this guy. No. So he had accumulated not just student loans, but home loans and over $200,000 that he owed his father. And he needed to make big money fast. He needed to crawl his way out of this debt. And luckily, in 2010, he found work in Dallas, where Wendy had actually come from. So it was really exciting for her to move back to Dallas and be, closer to her family. He sent his extensive 12-page resume. Which, how does this man write a 12-page resume? I have screenshots of his email. I have screenshots of his emails.
You should put that in the pictures.
He can barely put sentences together. He has he can't spell words very well. I'm just assuming that either Jerry or someone that he knows
I am baffled.
Wrote this whole resume for him. But one hospital received his resume and was pretty amazed at his extensive work. They had actually called his supervisor from the University of Tennessee to verify his credentials, and that supervisor told him that he was one of the best and smartest neurosurgeons he had ever trained. On the recommendation form, he wrote, "Chris is extremely bright and possibly the hardest working person I have ever met." So they gave him, yeah. So they gave him $600,000 in advance, set him up with a fancy hotel room in Dallas so that way they could expedite him down. And that way he could, buy a house and get his family all set up.
Shit would never happen for me. Ever. Ever.
An actually talented person. Yes, I know.
Oh, thank you. You may go on.
But yeah, he brought Jerry with him. Now, Jerry ended up just now falling for this girl, and they ended up having to do a long distance kind of thing. Jerry's just a sweetheart. I'm telling you, Jerry is
we all need really a Jerry nice in our lives. He's like a Sam to the Frodo.
I know. It's sad though, because, girl.
Imagine being loyal to just such a giant piece of crap.
I haven't even gotten to.
I know you haven't.
Oh, my heart. Okay, so yeah, Chris brought Jerry down. They ended up having to like live in this hotel room for a while they figured out his own clinic and getting a house and all of that stuff that they had to set up. So yeah, basically Chris hired Jerry to help him with that and all of the advertising that the office would need, all of the paperwork. Basically, he managed the place and Chris got to walk around in a lab coat.
I was fixing to say, it sounds like Chris is just going like, anyway, I'm going to go do some rails of coke and go to the strip club.
That's basically what he did.
Jerry, are going to do my entire job.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah. I
need a Jerry.
I'm really baffled how he even got to this point. I'm really still amazed that he was ever able or allowed to open up another human person body. Because by now he's so careless that like one thing that Jerry had to like was really frustrated with him about is that he kept leaving Sharpies without their lids on it all around the hotel, a fancy hotel. So leaving it on the really expensive couches and like the Sharpies would bleed all over shit.
Oh my God.
Getting all over the sheets. So Jerry's like frantically trying to get the stains out so he doesn't have to pay
he has a fucking cognitive impairment. And this is coming from someone who does lose their keys a lot. And if I set something down, it's in the void. But I have ADHD. And I am not that bad.
He never picks up after himself. He hardly ever showers. He's wrecking his cars left and right, and Jerry keeps having to get these cars into mechanics' offices.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
Yeah,
with this story.
yeah. He's just constantly like trying to control the chaos that is Chris.
So he's stinking.
Yeah.
He's messy, entitled.
Real bad, real dirty.
I'm sorry, I'm just going to say it. An idiot.
Yes. Yes.
And I'm sitting here and I can't rub two nickels together for warmth.
Right.
I'm pissed.
I know.
I'm pissed.
Jerry would even make these pamphlets for Chris with like promotional packets for hospitals with like his picture on it and like a shortened version of his resume and like
not all 12
references.
pages.
Yeah, I know. And I did read the resume. It's a lot of scrolling. I have it linked. It's ridiculous, but yeah, he started, handing out these pamphlets to hospitals and stuff, and the hospitals just flocked to him. So I didn't realize this because, of course, I don't work in a hospital. I wouldn't know. But neurosurgeons are apparently really hard to come by, and they mean big, big money for hospitals. So
I had to be flown to a different hospital just for my head stuff,
right,
to see a neurosurgeon because the hospital I'd been at did not have one.
Right. They're apparently really, really hard to come by.
Very specialized.
Yeah, and they're essentially, in my own layman's terms, like contract workers.
Yes.
So hospitals would supply the tech and the equipment, and the surgeons would come in for the procedure. Sometimes they would work at the hospital, but sometimes they would work for the hospital. And the surgeries in the U.S. are expensive as fuck.
Oh my God, yep.
Hospitals can see a pay increase in the millions for a single neurosurgeon.
Yes. So, like, if it sounds unreasonable that they offered him over $500,000
just to come over there,
does not sound unreasonable to me. Tracks, because
especially for Dallas hospitals, Dallas and Fort Worth,
major
really
metropolitan area
for their medical,
and they are known for their medical plaza.
Yes, they are.
In Texas,
if you've ever driven down that highway, it's like all medical stuff.
I know the highway you're talking about. I almost die there because look, we got a lot of listeners in the big O state of Texas.
And a lot in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
But I'm going to tell y'all right now, y'all think you're good at driving. I know you do. You talk about it. Y'all frightening, aggressive, angry. Calm down. Calm down. Don't be in a hurry.
Right.
You'll never get there if you're dead. I will never drive in Texas again as long as I live. Scarred. Go on.
So Duntsch's starting salary was $600,000 a year.
Goddamn.
Plus all the bonuses. Plus every surgery he does, he gets a certain cut or commission. Mm-hmm. Just ridiculous.
He's just rolling around in the money. And the very least you could do, sir, and I'm not going to call you a doctor, is take a fucking shower and put the caps on the Sharpies.
Oh, girl, there's a special spot in this case to talk about how nasty
Okay, I'll be quiet until.
No, I'm just letting you know.
I'll gear up. I'm bubbling.
So to these hospitals in Texas, a young neurosurgeon with all of these skills and stem cell research, which was very new at the time, and all these companies backing him and these schools backing him, they thought that they had essentially found like a cash cow. In May of 2011, he started working for the Minimally Invasive Spine Institute of North Dallas. Here he'd meet Kimberly Morgan. She was one of his nurses who he'd eventually take on as a lover. She slept with him in the office after hours and would even occasionally visit his house where his pregnant girlfriend Wendy was. He even introduced them and would explain to Kimberly later that Wendy was just his assistant and her husband was going to be moving here soon. She's just a good friend.
Yeah. The audacity.
Yeah. A couple months later, he started to work at the Baylor Regional Medical Center in Plano, Texas, where he'd be able to make even more money, basically using neurosurgery as a get-rich scheme.
Clearly, yeah.
Yeah, and taking Jerry and Kimberly with him because Kimberly ran the show at the hospitals. Jerry ran the show, like advertising the hospitals and all the stuff that Chris needed him to do at home. Soon, he was fired from the Minimally Invasive Spine Institute because he went to Vegas while he was on call.
Damn.
It's just stupid. In October of 2011, he opened his own practice called the Texas Neurosurgical Institute, with Kimberly basically running the whole place. Their relationship really started to grow when he started this practice. And she began to see the ugly side of Dr. Dunstch. He was drinking all the time. Like, he would start the day with a vodka and juice for breakfast and then move on to vodka and quote-unquote neurostimulants for lunch. Cocaine. He called cocaine neurostimulants.
Okay. I mean, you're not wrong.
But, you know.
Wait, hold on.
Like, he was using it.
Hold on. I keep mishearing his last name. What's his last name again?
Dunstch.
Okay.
But I want to call him Dunstch.
Yeah, my brain is like, yeah, he's a Dunstch, right?
I can't get that image out of my mind with him, like with a little Dunstch cone on him. Yeah, he was known to have piles of cocaine in his desk drawer, and
Tony
even
Montana
thought that it like he even said that it like gave him superpowers. Like, he needed the cocaine.
That's just how cocaine make everybody feel, dude. It does not give you superpowers, okay?
His first patient at Baylor was a 78-year-old man named Kenneth Fennell. In November of 2011. When the procedure was over, Chris told Kenneth that it all went great, and he'd later find out that Dr. Duntsch had actually operated on the wrong part of his back. By the time he came back to Dr. Duntsch later to fix what had originally was wrong, he had actually left Baylor Plano, and they couldn't figure out why he had left, which this is months and months later, and come to find out he had actually been kicked out of Baylor Plano because of his botched surgeries, but we as patients are not able to see those records.
Because of HIPAA records, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because a doctor can catch, like can be flagged or whatever for an actual mistake, as well as, like, you know, something on purpose. They could be the same, like, in the same list. So it could like tarnish somebody's name or whatever, but fuck that. Like, we should be able to know.
Oh, you should put that on the front door. I want to know. If we as Americans are forced
spending this much money,
like, y'all, I was talking to my dad yesterday, because my dad understands nothing, and he was talking about a friend that had gotten cancer, and he's like, what would you do if that was you? I was like, I'm gonna die.
I don't have the money to do anything.
I can't
about
afford
that,
to
sir.
live. I'll just die. I can't even afford my luxury bones, my teeth.
No.
And he's like, come on now.
I can't
And I'm
even
like,
afford my Klarna payment.
right? I'm wearing shirts with holes in them, y'all.
Yep.
I'm not going to the doctor.
No.
And so, okay, so if we're forced, right, to pay all this money that none of us have, because let's face it, you got $300,000. That's the average price of one round of chemotherapy.
Right.
And, you know, without it, you'll die. You may die anyway. So that's the kicker, you know? So let's say, yeah, why can't we then, if we're paying these people's salaries, okay? Mm-hmm. Why can't we know?
Right.
How they're fucking
right.
up. I mean, God, I feel like you could know a car mechanic.
I was just about to say that.
Up. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You'll hear about it like word of mouth. People
Karma
are like,
credit.
yeah. CarMax, all that shit we know. Like, why can't we have that kind of list for doctors?
Because our actual lives are at stake.
Yeah.
Well, because we're worth.
You have to like rely on Google reviews. Y'all, anybody can post one of them. I don't know. It just pisses me off.
Yep. Well, you're going to get more pissed as we go through.
Hooray.
So a month later, in late December of 2011, just a couple months after, or just like a day or two before the end of the year, 36-year-old Lee Passmore, an investigator with the Collins State Medical Examiner's Office, came into Baylor Hospital complaining of back pain from a previous surgery. He had become addicted to pain pills and wanted to find a way to fix the issue so that way he didn't need all of those extra pills. At first, his pain specialist advised against another surgery, but then, on second thought, he handed him a business card, of a new neurosurgeon who might be able to help, Dr. Duntsch. General surgeon Dr. Hoyle worked next to Dr. Duntsch during Lee Passmore's procedure. Dr. Hoyle's job was just to open and close the patient. That's all he was there for, even though he was a much better surgeon. He was just there for that and just to supervise.
Yeah.
He opened him up at the groin. He moved his organs and blood vessels out of the way and allowed Dr. Duntsch to access the lower spine and remove the herniated disc. Now, I don't know that much about surgeries, but I do know enough about a herniated disc that it's a very common procedure.
Yes.
It's a very common thing to have, and it's a very common thing to fix. And a neurosurgeon should not have any trouble with this at all. It's actually very, very fucking simple.
I might be speaking out of my ass, and all you medical people that listen, because we got so many nurse listeners, feel free to correct me.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure that has to be done by a neurosurgeon.
I don't know for sure.
I do know it's really common. I've had like 5 or 6 family members have this procedure done, and they was fine.
Yeah. But yeah, instead, during the operation, Dr. Hoyle looked over and saw the opening filled with blood.
Not what you want to see.
No. And throughout a lot of his surgeries, the nurses would note that, usually you would have like this pail of like discarded tissues that had a little bit of blood on them because the surgeons would know how to do their job. With his surgeries, they would be soaked with blood. There would be blood everywhere. He just really hacked into these
Just
people.
nightmare fuel.
So, yeah. Dr. Dunstch was fishing around inside this man with his hand because there was so much blood he had to see by feeling, if that makes sense. Not exactly the way you want your neurosurgeon inside of your groin. Now, Dr. Hoyle said that Dr. Duntsch announced that he would be removing the ligament that separated the disc from the spinal canal. Now, this, by his own words, is the posterior... Ooh, I read this, but I can't say it out loud. Longitudinal... Yep, it's a ligament. It's one that connects it's like one of the 2 major stabilizers.
Yes.
It's less than 1 millimeter from the spinal canal. So this is like a very important part of your spine, and you don't need to just go cutting it.
You should not. No.
Dr. Hoyle stepped in front of Dr. Dunst. He blocked his way and grabbed the surgical instruments from his hands and said, "We need to talk about this. That's dangerous. Even that attitude is dangerous." And by this point, yes. Lee Passmore had already lost 2 liters of blood.
Good God.
Dr. Hoyle cleaned up, like he made him like step the fuck back. Dr. Hoyle came in and cleaned up the wound, stopped the bleeding, but then Dr. Dunst continued. He put a surgical cage around the disc that was to widen the opening and relieve some of that pressure, but he didn't do that right either. X-rays later showed that he had actually positioned it in a way too far left from where he was supposed
This
to.
is making me die, yeah.
And then he tried to reposition it.
Oh, fuck a doodle.
But he stripped the screws.
Oh, come on, now you're
So
killing
the
me.
screws were now
Smalls.
stuck.
Fuck a doodle D. I can't cope.
I know, I'm sorry. I'm about to throw up.
I am literally, my stomach hurts and I'm
sorry.
sweating.
I'm nervous laughing. That's not a natural.
None of this is funny. I laugh so I don't puke.
Yeah. So when Lee woke up, his family could hear his screams down the hallway.
Bless him. It's supposed to relieve the pain. That sucks.
His mother, one of his best friends, who also had his kids, plus his 2 daughters, who were 7 and 8, they all heard his screams echoing down the hallway.
Oh, this is a horror movie.
To this day, Lee Passmore still lives in constant excruciating pain.
Oh.
After that, Dr. Hoyle canceled all of his upcoming scheduled operations with Dr. Duntsch and swore that he would never work with this man ever again. But Duntsch wasn't alone. But Duntsch wasn't done with Lee Passmore. He actually asked him to come back after his surgery, about a week after this surgery. He told him to come back because he wanted to, quote unquote, fix the space above the discs that he had worked on.
Oh, I wouldn't come back.
So he opened him back up. He picked out some of the pieces that he had left behind.
Girl.
And then he ended up severing a ligament in his leg, and a screw that he put in now sits on top of a bundle of nerves. He can't run, he can't swim or play with his children. He struggles with incontinence, and the bottoms of his feet are still asleep at all times.
Oh, God, this is so scary.
This is only the second victim.
Dude.
He is an investigator for the medical examiner's office. This man is supposed to be at the scene of at the scene of the crime. He is supposed to be there.
Yeah.
He is supposed to be there to take all the photos of the crime scene. He is supposed to be there to check the body. No, he can't do his job anymore.
Can't do anything.
He can't climb a ladder to take pictures of crime scenes. He can't be there.
Crouch down like you have to do.
No, he can't climb any stairs.
This is so sad and fucked.
It took 4 months of recovery to get him able to actually go to work. And from then on, he had to sit at the desk.
I bet he hated that.
Yep.
God damn.
Because that man had his heart and soul in his work.
Yeah.
A couple weeks later, in January of 2012, a 45-year-old man named Barry Morgulov came in to see the doctor about back pain from working unloading equipment. He had actually worked for a pool clean. He had owned his own pool cleaning company, and he was, unloading equipment off of this truck for 20 plus years. And so that long, extensive work on his back, it really fucked up his back. When the steroid shot that his doctor gave him didn't work, he was referred to the hospital's neurosurgeon, Christopher Duntsch. It was supposed to be a routine spinal fusion surgery where 2 vertebrae are fused together to alleviate discomfort. These are very, 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 very common. You take the disc out, you fuse the bones, bada bing, bada boom, you're done. But Dr. Duntsch was assisted by a prominent surgeon named Randall Kirby. He compared Dr. Duntsch to a first-year medical student and later wrote that Dr. Duntsch didn't seem to have any understanding of the spinal anatomy at all. After the surgery, Barry Morgulov woke up in the worst pain he had ever experienced. He said it felt like he had been hit by a truck. Dr. Duntsch ordered him painkillers and told him not to worry, that the pain would go away. 6 months later, a doctor at the Presbyterian Hospital of Dallas found that Dr. Duntsch had actually installed the spinal hardware wrong and left bone fragments in the nerves of the patient's back.
Oh, sorry, it just freaking me out.
Requiring another round of surgeries to remove the debris.
God, love it. Mm-mm.
In February of 2012, his best friend, Jerry Summers, I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
Came in for an operation. Working for Chris had required a lot of movement, and he had an old injury in his neck from a car accident, and it had been bothering him. And he legitimately thought that Chris was the best neurosurgeon in the country.
Oh, I don't like where this is going at all.
He didn't think twice when his best friend said his famous words, quote, "I can fix you." This is what he told all of his patients. "I can fix you." He was just supposed to, do a fusion. He was supposed to fuse two bones together, and then it would stop them from rubbing together and causing him so much pain. And then he would just sew them up, good as new. And, typically it was so routine that, like, most of those surgeries didn't even have much of a healing time. Like,
almost outpatient, yeah.
Instead, Dr. Duntsch removed part of Jerry's muscle tissue and damaged his vertebral artery, causing him to lose a significant amount of blood. A nurse later stated, quote, "To stop the bleeding, Duntsch packed the space with so much anticoagulant that it squeezed Summers' spine. This left Jerry a quadriplegic."
My God.
His body constantly trying to fight internal infections. He'd later lose a limb and his own life in 2021 to the surgical-related infections. In the days following the surgery, Jerry grew more and more pissed off at Chris, as he should, for what he had done to him, that eventually he came forward with allegations that Chris was high on cocaine when he performed this surgery.
I don't doubt it.
Well, yeah, but he told the staff at Baylor Hospital that both he and Chris had partied all night the night before. So Baylor ordered a drug test for not just Chris, but also his assistant/girlfriend, Kimberly. She took the test immediately and passed, no problem. But Chris turned out, his test ended up being diluted with water. So they ordered a retest, and one day he just couldn't find the place. He got lost. The next day he tried again, and apparently it was closed. It wasn't. He stalled for 5 days in total, and then he pissed clean. He was then ordered to a psych eval, which he passed, and later Jerry ended up retracting his statement, saying that he just wanted to get Chris's attention, because in those moments after a botched surgery, he couldn't feel anything from the neck down. All he wanted was his best friend. And he was nowhere to be found. Chris never apologized. Chris never talked to him afterwards. He just abandoned Jerry, just like that.
Like, I don't know if this is malevolence or just incompetence and heartlessness.
I don't know where this guy's motive is. I don't understand. This is the very first case I've ever researched.
I think I got it figured out.
I'm like, where is this guy coming from?
I think he used neurosurgery as a get-rich-quick scheme, but he didn't actually know what he was doing.
Oh, he didn't at all.
At all.
At all.
To the point where he should not have tried.
Exactly.
But he did anyway, because he just thought, I'll figure it out. Just like with football, he's just talentless hack. That's all he is.
But why continue? That's my thing, is like...
Money. Money is always a motivator.
How did you expect to get rich if you're not doing your job properly? I don't know.
Because I think he thought, I'll reach a certain amount and I'll quit.
So.
Or I'll just get good at it.
Or he just is so charismatic that...
Or he was deluded himself, because he sounds like a ding-dong anyway.
Yeah.
Lord help me.
Jerry later said, quote, "I was just really mad and hollering and wanted him to be there. And so I made that statement that was not something that was necessarily true. The statement was only made so that he might hear it and go, let me get my ass down there." But he didn't. Chris never came to his bedside to help his friend in any way, and after all Jerry had done to him, this was how he treated him. And I just do not understand this whatsoever.
It's fucked.
The injury to his spine left him more than just paralyzed. It took his entire life away. He didn't want anything to do with his girlfriend anymore. She tried to stay by his side. She's a very sweet and darling woman. But he ended up begging her to put him out of his misery, and then just rejecting her altogether when she wouldn't.
So sad.
He later got a small dog named Stella, and he tried to move on with his life. He said that he forgave Chris for what he had done to him, but I honestly don't know how he did it, and I'm really proud of him for even attempting.
Because I wouldn't.
To, forgive him. I couldn't. He died February 10th, 2021 due to infections from the botched surgery. He was only 50 years old.
It's fucking terrible.
That next month, March 2012, a school teacher named Kelly Martin came in for a back surgery. Now, months prior, she had been, she's completely perfectly healthy in every way, shape, or form. She had just been helping her husband get some boxes down from the attic, and she missed a step on her way down and tripped and fell. And it resulted in a herniated disc. The pain was still really bad. They tried everything. They tried all different types of stretching and you name it, that type of therapy, they did it. But nothing would work. And so she scheduled a surgery for during spring break, so that way it didn't affect her teaching.
Yeah, and she should have been able to heal from it in that amount of time. That's how routine that shit is.
It should only have taken about 45 minutes, and typically patients notice relief pretty soon as they wake up. But not Kelly. This kind and loving 54-year-old school teacher walked into that hospital arm in arm with her husband and would never walk out.
Oh.
When the 45 minutes turned into an hour and then an hour and a half, her husband knew something was wrong. Then Dr. Duntsch appeared and said that everything went well. A sigh of relief. He said that she's been up, moving around, and is still in a bit of discomfort, so she's being moved to ICU, where she may stay overnight for pain treatment, but, she's doing great. But her husband knew that there was something. They don't
put you in ICU for pain management.
No, you don't. He knew that there was something wrong, so he called his daughters to come to the hospital. They're in their 20s or 30s by now, they're older. So when they arrive, they found their father completely distraught. He just knew something was wrong with his wife. No matter how many times Dr. Duntsch said, quote unquote, she's fine, he held onto his daughters and prayed for his wife. Then the ICU physician, the anesthesiologist, and Dr. Duntsch all came into the room with very solemn faces. Dr. Duntsch stared at the floor, and they basically said that they tried everything they could, but they couldn't save her. Apparently, she had woken up from the surgery and had just began screaming and clawing at her legs so much that they had to sedate her.
Oh, God.
She was put into a coma, and she never woke up. She bled internally. Lee Passmore, the medical examiner who is now at the desk doing a desk job, he's sitting at that desk right next to the fax machine. And the fax machine starts, making that sound, and it starts
Lee blur, Yep.
And the cover letter comes up, and it's for medical records for a deceased patient. And the cover letter pops up, and the name Dr. Christopher Duntsch is right there. And it just sends shivers down his spine. It's like cold sweats. He just knew that he had done something to this patient.
Yeah.
He continued reading as it began printing, and he would read it line for line as it printed it. And line after line, it just gave descriptions of these injuries that just felt like deja vu because he was currently healing from those injuries.
Wow.
Months later, in July of 2012, a 64-year-old woman named Floella Brown came in for her back pain. She was a banker about to retire, hoping that this cervical fusion would help her ease into her retirement so that way she didn't have to be in so much pain. But sadly, her doctor was incompetent. The operating nurse said that there was so much blood that he couldn't see what he was doing. When she awoke, she said that she felt fine. Her husband, her son, her granddaughter all came to visit her, and she seemed to be doing okay. But by 5 a.m. that next morning, she was convulsing. She lost consciousness, and Dr. Duntsch was nowhere to be found. They tried calling him and calling him. When he didn't arrive to the hospital, they just had to keep her sedated. He finally arrived hours late, and the staff members who saw him said that he looked disheveled. They said he'd worn the same scrubs 3 days in a row. You want to know how they knew?
How?
These scrubs that he wore 3 days in a row had a nickel-size hole in the butt, and he didn't wear underwear.
Fuck a doodle fuck. I cannot cope. If you can't put on your underpanties, you don't get to be a doctor.
Even that, if you can't wash yourself and change your clothes, you are opening people up.
Yeah, you can't. Disgusting.
What
Wearing
the
them 3
fuck?
days, and I can't
That's
cope with any of this. I'm fucking done.
He was notified upon walking in. He was notified that his patient from the day before was not doing well and that he needed to attend to her immediately. He kind of just poo-pooed this off and instead went and operated on another patient while Floella Brown died. The next patient was 71-year-old Mary Eford, who was an active older woman. She actually just wanted to alleviate some discomfort because she wanted to get back on the treadmill. That's all she wanted. Instead, she got Dr. Duntsch. During her surgery, Chris is super stressed out about the Floella Brown issue, that he's arguing with the nurse and the supervisors while operating on Mary Eford. He tells them he needs to do a craniotomy on Floella, which I'm not a doctor, but I know what a goddamn craniotomy is. And oh my God, no.
Was it just where you open up your...
You
take
make a
out
hole.
parts of the skull? Yeah.
To alleviate the pressure of the brain.
Yeah.
That's what he says he needs to do.
No,
and they were
a
like,
shunt would
they
be
were like,
more...
this hospital is not equipped for that type of surgery. And he's like, you could literally give me any set of tools and I could give her a craniotomy.
Ah, no, stop it.
Yes. Like he's going to ice pick her.
Oh, fuck this dude.
So, yeah, since he was preoccupied during this surgery, he messes up putting in the hardware in Miss Eford and ended up screwing it into her muscle instead of her bone.
Oh, God help me. Oh, God.
He doesn't know anatomy.
Clearly not.
I'm not even an artist, and I'm like, well, you know what I mean. But I know basic anatomy, at least to know what a fucking muscle looks like or feels like compared to bone. She had to go to another surgeon. Oh, sorry. When she woke up in obviously excruciating pain. She was unable to move her leg. So she went to another surgeon to fix the damage. He later said, quote, immediately upon opening the patient's prior scar, I could see a screw penetrating the dural sac from the left side at the bottom. It was just wobbly there. It was like somebody just threw some Tinker toys in their erector set, and they were just there. I had absolutely zero comprehension of how this surgeon could think that he had done the procedure correctly. He said that Duntsch had also amputated Mary Eford's nerve root and placed a screw into her S1 nerve root. Just for fucking fun? Like, why did you do that?
Oh, I'm dying. This is killing me. I'm so sweaty.
The next patient. And this isn't even all of them. These are just the ones that, would go to trial and, all that. So Jeff Cheney was a father of 3, a grandfather of 6, who was experiencing nerve pain from his shoulder down his arm. He went to Dr. Duntsch for surgery in September of 2012 and was assured that he'd be 100% pain-free after the surgery. But he woke up in unbearable pain. He later found out that part of his spinal cord had been severed. He could no longer work as a mechanic or even pick up his grandkids to play. He spends his days at home now in absolutely debilitating pain. Next was a runner named Marshall Tex Muse. He was suffering from degenerative... It's so hard.
Degenerative disc disease.
Obviously from running. He sought treatment from this specialist, Dr. Duntsch. He felt confident with his doctor until he saw an article online about one of his patients dying, the school teacher, Kelly Martin. He called Chris about this, asked him about it, and Chris started yelling at him, cussing him out, and said, quote, "How dare you? I can't believe that you're accusing me of killing someone." He then continued to say that the patient had an allergic reaction to anesthesia, and that's why she died.
No.
So Tex believed him and went on with the surgery, and just like the others, he woke up in excruciating pain. Duntsch said that he was overreacting, so he wrote him a script for painkillers. When he went to get this script filled, the pharmacist said that she would fill it, but she's not going to fill the second one because basically that doctor is trying to kill you with how high the dosage was.
Oh my God, you can't even prescribe medicine, right?
No.
Jesus Christ.
And this man, because of this prescription and because of the pain that he was in, ended up spiraling into addiction, lost his job, lost his wife, and nearly lost his life.
God.
Another doctor would later determine that Duntsch didn't install the hardware to his spine, but instead had left it floating in between the spine and muscle tissue.
Oh, fuck a doodle doo. I can't. I can't.
Sorry, Lillian. I'm sorry that that's your catchphrase.
I know. I just can't. It's flying out. God, love it. Can't do it.
I know. It's painful.
No.
It's painful. So in December of 2012, Jacqueline Troy was left barely able to speak above a whisper because Dr. Duntsch accidentally cut her vocal cords and one of her arteries. Her esophagus had been pinned under a plate near her spine, and Duntsch had poked holes in her trachea. She was left with just one vocal cord, barely allowing her to speak. She was sedated for weeks and initially forced to eat through a feeding tube because the food was getting into her lungs. Pam Trusty had actually been in one of the infomercials for Dr. Duntsch. She thought she was participating in a video for an award that he had won, but no, she was just part of his advertising scheme. The praises that she sang later on would haunt her. Because still to this day, she feels like if people didn't see her in those infomercials, that they wouldn't have gone to him. That she feels partially
poor
responsible.
thing. It's not her fault.
No, not at all. She actually did go through a surgery with him, but she said, quote, "I could walk and I was on the top side of the ground. And because of that, she considers herself to be a lucky one of his victims."
Did he perform any surgery right? Because it doesn't
Apparently
seem like it.
there were a handful, but I didn't find any of them in my research.
Damn.
It was probably ones where he had another surgeon.
He had an assist who did most of the work. Yeah.
Now, Philip Mayfield was a truck driver for 20 years. On April 9th, 2013, he thought a simple 45-minute surgery would take all of his back pain away, but instead he was left crippled. His wife, Angela, told Esquire magazine, quote, "He had no control, no support of his own. He was just flopping around," when she saw him for the first time. He was taken to a different hospital where another doctor examined him and found that his spinal cord was so deformed, the damage was irreversible. After years of intensive therapy, he's now able to walk with a cane, but he lives in chronic pain and developed a condition where cysts grow on his spinal cord. The pain gets so bad that he experienced fainting spells from time to time.
Jeez.
He sadly died from complications in February of 2021, right around the same time as his friend Jerry. Jeff Glidewell was a superstitious man. On his way to the hospital for his surgery, he saw 3 black cats cross his path at different times, and he really didn't feel good about this. Now, as for me, if I saw a black cat cross my path, I would just be like, "Ooh, kitty," but
I'd be like,
these
"Yum,
were
yum,
signs
yum."
for him. And he really did think about turning back, but he didn't. When he got to the hospital, he had to wait for hours hooked up to an IV because his doctor showed up 3 hours late. He was seen getting out of a cab, wearing frayed jeans and looking an absolute hot mess. Jeff had issues with pain since a motorcycle accident in 2004, so he was really anxious to find relief. But when he woke up, he found that he couldn't lift his arm. He couldn't speak. He was in immense pain, and his wife was next to him sobbing. Dr. Duntsch had told her that he had to stop the surgery because he had found a tumor, and this could be cancer. Thankfully, Jeff was taken to a different hospital where Dr. Randall Kirby, the doctor who had attended the Lee Passmore surgery, he examined Jeff Glidewell and said that Dr. Duntsch had put, quote, a hole the size of a silver dollar in this man's esophagus, taken out a nerve, cut an artery, and then left a sponge inside his body.
Oh, God.
Dr. Kirby also said that, quote, he was septic. He had a bad blood-borne infection. Pus was pouring out of his neck along with saliva.
Oh, God damn it.
Again, it's his esophagus.
Ugh, fuck off. Sorry, it's making me curse.
Dr. Duntsch left the sponge inside of him because if he had pulled out the sponge, Mr. Glidewell would have
exsanguinated.
Thank you.
Bled to death.
But, that's not any long-term solution. That sponge, he said, would have, needed to been removed.
Yeah.
He said, you've got to take care of whatever and wherever you've injured someone. And clearly, Dr. Duntsch wasn't going to do that. And that tumor that he said could possibly be cancer, you want to know what that was?
What, like his gallbladder or something?
His esophagus.
I'm sure
Which he tried to remove.
But it was just fine.
It was just...
He doesn't even know what an esophagus is.
No.
I gotta go. Damn.
Dr. Kirby later said, quote, I have never seen a case like Mr. Glidewell's. This was attempted murder, and it wasn't the first time, in my opinion, we had a serial killer in our medical community. After this, his medical license was finally suspended.
Goddamn,
His
finally.
license was later permanently revoked in December of 2013. Two of the doctors that I had mentioned, Dr. Randall Kirby and Dr. Robert Henderson, they had both worked on patients after him and kind of cleaned up his messes. Yeah. Dr. Robert Henderson worked on Mary Eford and they just couldn't stand by and watch all of this happen. They had to do something about this. They couldn't let him get away with murder. So Dr. Henderson thought it had to have been fraud. He was like, there's no way that this guy got through med school if he didn't know basic anatomy. So he checked with the school that he had gone to, even sent in a photo thinking that maybe he had just faked his papers.
Yeah.
But they
were like, no, love the guy.
Yeah,
He's super
exactly.
awesome.
They were like, he's a great doctor. So then he was like, okay, well, if that's not it, does he have some sort of permanent brain damage? Is it chemical induced brain damage, or does he have a brain tumor? He's really trying to figure out.
He's like, why is this guy so dumb and bad?
Because there's no other options to him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it.
But the more he dug, the more he realized that this man literally was just out to kill. He was arrested in July of 2015 and charged with 6 felony counts of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, being a scalpel.
Yeah.
5 counts of aggravated assault causing bodily injury, and 1 count of injury to an elderly person, since Mary Eford was considered a senior citizen. They ended up focusing mostly on her case because they were able to, at least, if they got him on that, they would be able to keep him longer.
Yes.
So, yeah, that one carried the most weight in court. So, and they also had way more evidence of that one because the doctor actually recorded him cleaning up the mess.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, he thought ahead for some reason. He was just like, I just felt like it was a good idea to record that second surgery and kind of get, a play-by-play of what I was seeing as I went through.
Yeah, it was a great idea.
Yes. So Dr. Duntsch's defense team tried to say that he was just underqualified and lacked in proper training, but many things would surface during the trial that would prove otherwise. All the x-rays, for one, before and after photos, one doctor recorded cleaning up, and I think a lot of other surgeries were recorded too. All of that went into evidence, as well as an email that was submitted by his assistant and ex-girlfriend, Kimberly Morgan, that was dated December 11th, 2011, months or just a couple weeks before Lee Passmore. It's very long and very strange. I have receipts. It'll be in Patreon, but his emails are really, really creepy. Now, again, there's so much weirdness going on, so I'm going to paraphrase, or I'm going to just read clips of it that are just really concerning to me. The first part says, here's the deal. I have about 6 companies in play and about 80 people I have to talk to daily or weekly. I have 3 lawsuits. I have $1 million in debt, $10 million invested, and 22 years of pain in misery already on the table. I have 6 chances at making enough of this and that to do with what is next. I do not have the patience to put all my money on one horse. Anyone close to me thinks that I am something between God, Einstein, and the Antichrist because of how I can do anything I want and cross every discipline boundary like it's a playground and never ever lose. But unfortunately, despite the fact that I am winning, it is not happening fast enough. He then rambles, and it's really gross because he's trying to be super daddy. Ugh. But yeah, so he rambles a bunch of nonsense in its paragraphs. But then later on he says, quote, you, my child, are the one between me and the other side. I am ready to leave the love and kindness and goodness and patience that I mix with everything else that I am and become a cold-blooded killer. The sad fact is that I would go faster, do better, and catch more respect and honor by fucking everyone in the brain, emotionally and mentally controlling them in a manner that borders on abuse, taking no prisoners, and sending everyone in my way, and especially that fucks with me, to hell for the simple fact that they thought they could much less try.
Well, that's a lot of word salad to say I am a psychopath.
He later on said, and I quote, I am a supernova sophisticated savant.
No, you ain't.
And then he says, I am the best fucking surgeon and scientist and every fucking thing I decide I want to be.
Oh, Mommy told you could be anything.
Pat, pat, pat.
So you became a big waste of time.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Wendy, his actual girlfriend, mother of his children, would later say that he said that he had, quote, God knowledge, which basically sounds like something that he got from an acid trip.
Sounds like that one wife swap where she's like, I'm a God warrior. Yeah. You're dark-sided. That's what it sounds like to me.
But he's filled with God knowledge. He
that
knows
lady
everything.
actually turned around and ended up being really nice to gay people. Just thought I'd share that little tidbit that sometimes life finds a way.
Good
Jurassic Park
I did
quote.
not
I don't know
expect
why.
that at all.
No.
So one surgeon who worked with him later testified that he hacked around inside people's bodies like a hyperactive child wielding a scalpel.
That's so frightening.
The victims who could make it to court did, one by one, whether barely able to walk or in wheelchairs or limping with a cane or a walker, they all came in to face the surgeon who ruined their lives. It only took the jury a little over an hour to deliberate.
Damn.
And on February 20th, 2017, Christopher Duntsch was found guilty of a first-degree felony for intentionally injuring an elderly victim. He also faced numerous lawsuits from the victims and their families. He was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 28 years. His earliest possibility for parole is July 20th, 2045.
Oh, we'll probably all be dead by then. So it's fine.
I'll be 55. People still want answers, obviously.
Obviously. Why?
Why did this all happen? How did this all happen?
I mean, he said it himself. He'll just kill people to make money. That's fine.
Well, and so many people want to, kind of place responsibility on all the checks and balances.
That too.
All the people that should have stood in his way, could have stood in his way,
Amen.
but didn't.
They need to see some jail time. The guy who said, "Oh, he's the best surgeon ever," and didn't only 100 hours of fuck this guy.
They should all be liable. But the thing is that lawsuits are expensive, and clearly, obviously, hospitals need to be worried more about somebody's life than lawsuits. But the thing is that a wrongful death lawsuit is way less, monetarily speaking, than a defamation of character lawsuit, because neurosurgeons could say, well, I could be making upwards of $2 million a year, so you have to pay me $2 million a year for the rest of my life. Very easily that could happen. And so that's kind of why you're not allowed to look at records. You're not allowed, all of this additional information about your doctors. It's money. It's greed. It's the medical system not wanting to... too scared to deal with
but it's
lawsuits.
just fine how it is. It's just fine, right? It's just fine that we're paying this much. Nobody can afford it.
Right.
It's just fine.
Right.
Why not have a single payer system? That's gross. Why have it like the UK, huh? Then we'll wait a long time for surgeries, even though that's inaccurate and just something that, like, political pundits say to make their point, and even though they're wrong and they're lying.
I just don't get it. I don't get how
Universal health care for everyone, literally everyone.
Yeah.
If you took out this massive money-making scheme that is big
It's
pharma
disgusting.
and big hospital, and I'm not talking about nurses, they should be paid like $200,000 a year at
Nurses,
least. Angels.
y'all. And the thing is that I've noticed with all these cases that the nurses aren't allowed to speak up until a certain point.
Or you're fired. You are fired.
Well, you're not even allowed to talk over a doctor.
No.
You're not allowed to step in unless it's, a certain level of severity.
It's fucked.
Even then, most nurses are not taken
I'd trust any of
seriously.
them nurses to operate on me over that guy.
Absolutely.
Fucking A.
Absolutely. Nurses have saved my life.
Same.
Doctors, especially, like, no offense, but male doctors,
Ain't been nice to me, but I will
really
say they have saved a neurosurgeon and a bone surgeon saved my leg.
I mean, for good surgeons,
Oh yeah, he's
they
a
save
miracle
lives.
worker.
Absolutely
Yeah.
save lives.
But he had the bedside manner of a fucking piranha.
I just don't understand how he got that far. I really don't.
Oh, no,
and
he
I
shouldn't
don't
have.
understand what his motive was. I still don't get it.
Money.
This is literally the only person I can't find
Money.
the actual motive for.
He couldn't bear being a failure at anything else after the football thing. So he just was determined he could do it if he just believed hard enough.
He really thought that neurosurgeon was his ticket to money.
Yes, he did. And people enabled him
get
every
it.
step of the way. I don't
It's
think...
like the hardest fucking thing.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and one of his friends later said, like, oh, Chris is going in to be a neurosurgeon? Of course he is. Like, of course he's trying to achieve the highest level of respect and honor with the lowest amount of capability. Apparently he was just kind of that guy.
Yeah.
There was an little story about how he wanted to be a wrestler in high school, and like later on in college, one of his friends was like, you suck at wrestling. I bet you'd suck. So he like challenged him. He was like, fine. He like drove over to his
all
house.
it's about. That's all it's about.
Showing up. It's proven that he could. But how, when you maim and murder people, like, where did the line
Because he didn't care.
go?
He doesn't care about people, and that's part of what makes a good doctor a good doctor. You have to care about people.
Right.
You know what I care about?
Y'all.
Business time. Hey, look, we're trying a different transition every time. I'm going to lightning speed this business time.
It's sweaty.
Because I'm sweaty spaghetti and I can't cope, and I'm going to puke because that was awful. So, first of all, hey, y'all heard me just mention we got a cord going out.
Yeah.
I don't want y'all to miss out on the podcast because I have to wait until the first of the month. So if you'd like a tarot card reading from me, they are on sale, $15 each. And I will do the full 10 card spread. It takes me several hours to do these because I meditate beforehand. I have almost 30 years experience. Come on,
And
15
she's real
bucks.
good.
You will enjoy it. I promise. I get in there. I really...
It's in there real good, guys.
Real good. So, yeah, also I'm doing a special. Maris is going to paint a star chart. That is the position of the stars on a date, time, and place of your choosing, like a birthday, anniversary of someone's death, the day you got your favorite pet. It can be any day. Any day you want, and he will illustrate in an old-timey, old-world style the position of the stars. And it's beautiful. I'm going to do a tarot reading and an 8x10 watercolor painting for $45 because I want this cord.
Yeah.
So we can continue to record. And I got to get my cat. So, okay, update on Ditto, since some of you have asked. That is what I named the gray cat that's identical to my other gray cat. She has a clean bill of health.
Good.
She's perfectly healthy. And now she has gone into heat because of fucking course. The day after I bring her home from the vet, she goes into heat.
Oh, wow.
So we need to get her to the vet
I didn't realize
again.
she was that old.
We think she's 6 months old.
Okay.
That's what the vet agreed. So
Okay.
she's like a month older
That
than
makes
our
sense.
other kitten,
Gotcha.
Moggy. So I'd like to get her to the vet ASAP. We did not want a second cat.
Yeah.
But the universe said, have this cat. She was starving on the side of the road, and I can't cope with that. So that's why we took her in. So if you want to help my kitty cat out, I'll have all my information. Also, I would like to highlight a creator who we love here at Cruelty Podcast, and that is Tiny Sea Crafts.
Thank you for sponsoring us.
Thank you for being our sponsor. Thank you for being a friend. Boo-doo-doo-doo. Okay, I'll stop. And basically, here's what they make. They make keychains, lanyards, bags, masks, all kinds of stuff. And this is some quality shit, y'all. They sent us an art bag. Well, that's what we use it for. It's like a little caddy, and it's kind of like square. It is so cute.
Nice.
The fabric is adorable. You can pick your fabric, and we can store so much
it's
shit
like
in there.
seasonal too, so like based on like the time of year.
Yeah.
So they have like new fabrics coming in all the time.
And they have like a lot of cottage core, like dark cottage core, like mushrooms and plague doctors, and you know that is my jam.
Yeah.
But they have more normie stuff
They're,
too.
their logo is the plague doctor.
It
so
is. It's
fitting.
so cuted. I love it very much. So please check them out. They have a coupon code. I don't remember it off the top of my head.
It'll be in the
But it
description.
will be in the description, and you can get a percentage off.
And follow us on
show up.
Instagram too, because
Yeah.
we
We share that information there as well. Listen, let's support these small businesses because let's not with the corporations. Yeah, you could go get a lanyard at Walmart, but go buy it from somebody who made it. Okay? Yeah. Because when you buy from a small business, you fucking pay their bills and put food on the table.
They're also really big in pet rescue and
Yes.
animal rescue and stuff like that. So you're not just
Close
supporting
to
a small
me heart.
business, you're also
Yeah.
supporting some animals too. So
And we love the animals around here.
Yeah, girl.
Yeah, girl. So in addition to all of that, we got some contests going. I'm going to lay them out for you.
Yeah.
I'm going to lay them out. If you want to donate to any of the Doing the Little Good people that I link in the description, send me a screenshot. If you want to do a review, send us a screenshot of a nice review that you have left for our podcast. I will put all of those into a drawing for our $5 Patreon tier Cruelty Party. That gets you the bonus episode every week, and I will pick someone. I will give you $5. Now, you can take that $5 and buy an ice cream and tell me to go fuck myself, which is fine. I will.
Not with
You
the ice
can.
cream.
Yeah, it's a good time, so no one loses. But like, you know, that's what it's for. And what was the other one I was doing? Well, I don't remember now.
I don't know. But also I was going to say that if somebody that's already in Patreon, wins and gets that extra $5,
We bump you up
you
then.
You could bump up a
Or just to
tier
keep
for
that
the month,
$5.
or get a free month.
Yeah.
You do whatever.
We do it. We'll
know?
figure it out.
We just really appreciate it.
I was going to enter. Oh, here's what I'm going to. I'll do that contest later. We're running out of time, and my brain is
So
melting.
many things.
Yeah. Are you a small business, by the way?
Yes.
Then you want to be our sponsor? We would love to host a little ad for you, share your stuff around. We have a lot more new listeners, so it is advantageous to jump on it at this time. So if you are a creator, you can be an artist, you can make candles, you can make soaps. I don't
Anything with
consider it
hands.
competition. That's silly. There are 8 billion people and all of us need soap, so don't worry about that. You make jewelry. I don't care what you make. Let's hook up. Just email me or Willow or the podcast, and we'll get that going for you. Other than that, if all you can do to support this podcast is listen, thank you so much. But I would like to also point out we have merch.
Yeah.
I haven't pointed that out in a while.
Oh, yeah.
We have t-shirts and mugs. Oh, my goodness. Get you some.
We have really cool, not just mugs, but like the cold drink cups too.
I love
for
those
summertime.
things. That's what I
and
have.
those,
It's
the
great.
label does not come off.
No, it doesn't, because I've washed it 100
Yes,
times.
They do
My
not come
kids
off.
washed it, and they're not careful.
Dishwasher and everything. So
So yeah, hook yourself up with some merch, and I think our logo is really fucking cool. Anytime I wear a shirt out, I get compliments.
Yeah.
People are like, "What's that?" And I was like, "Oh no, it's my podcast." And I sound like a douche. Hey, love y'all, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Us on your social media platform of choice. Linktree/Cruelty has all the links. Check out our Patreon for exclusive episodes, merch, ad-free episodes, live ghost hunts, and much more. Please be sure to subscribe. New episodes are uploaded weekly. Thank you so much. See you next time. Music and production by Lillian.